Alright, hello, and you've just seen a bit of footage from the actual market round here, and it's feeling a little bit quiet round here, and yeah, I think as there's been a lot of news about various things recently. I might have to make a whole video on it. I might. There's a few things that have been quite exciting and a few things that, well, haven't been, and one of those is, sadly, there was actually an accident on one of these rides here, and that's why all three of them are closed. They've had these three rides for, well, these two at the back have been, well, the Ferris wheel has pretty much always been here. The Starflyer was added about 10 years ago, maybe 8 years ago. I can't remember the first time this was here, but I do remember, I think, seeing it for the first time here. And then Air has only actually been coming here for the last few years. Air and the Starflyer are both owned by Abidanta, but they've been operated here and at Digbeth Fair for the last few years, since I think 2021 was the first time Air came here. And you know, I've got a few POVs of this and the Starflyer and the Ferris wheel over the years. And yeah, sadly, on the Starflyer, you might have heard about it. It's kind of a long story what actually happened to it, because there's a ride operator called Ryan the Ride Mechanic on YouTube who described pretty much the only, because he actually works on a ride of the exact same model by the same manufacturer, and there's only really one way this could have happened. And it's all kind of adding up, especially because two of the ride operators have been arrested recently. What happened with this, by the sound of it, is it was meddled with in the power box, and it was set to go backwards. I can't remember how, but it overshot the brakes, slammed into the bottom, and it didn't have time to stop spinning. So, like, there's pairs of seats on each side that got tangled up, which I actually came here on Tuesday to see A Christmas Carol, and I saw that the seats were all tangled up. They seem to have actually sorted that out. However, you can see the box is covered up there, the operating console. That's because one of the seats collided into the operator's console, so there's a lot of damage to it. it's, yeah, I mean, this hasn't been operated the best when I've been on it, because the last time I did it, they didn't check the restraints and we were just off. You know, Abu Danta seems to, like, the people, the ride operators by this showman, just, I don't know, there's just something interesting going on there. It'll be interesting what happens when it comes out, maybe more about this. But yeah, I was devastated to hear it. Yeah, I mean, luckily it seems like everyone's going to make a recovery who was actually on the ride. There's there's a damage to the fence there as well. And that was because one of the seats, because of the force, basically if it's spinning around at full speed at the bottom, it can't unless it overshoots one of the sensors. They were actually outside of the fence, and you can see where one of the fences has been impacted there by the seat. That's where they had to evacuate people. These rides, I think, would be fairly easy to evacuate because the restraints would just come up once they were unlocked. They can be unlocked manually. It's just the way these work. They're just a bar, like on a chaeroplane or a wave swinger. But yeah, that's where they were evacuated. Someone has got quite a severe injury. However, it seems like hopefully they'll be able to recover from it. Yeah, it's really sad to be stood in front of a ride that I'm seeing the damage that's been done from this accident, and I know that people, we've seen pictures of people who got off this ride. Yeah, not a lot of people have covered what has happened on this, but there's still people who've come out with injuries, and it needs to be talked about. And yeah, that's pretty much all I can say about it. It's just really, it's disappointing that, you know, because so a lot of people are put off by fun fairs, and the fact that this has happened, it is just, yeah, it's just for the industry. It's not great. It's really not, you know. Luckily, people, but that could have ended up worse by the sound of it. It did fall a few meters, but then I don't think it actually fell. I think what it was that it came down at like emergency stop speed, which is probably slightly faster, and then it slammed into the bottom because it overshot the brakes. So I think that's what they meant by it fell. It abruptly stopped, and then of course it was still spinning, and it didn't get a chance to slow down, and that's why some of the seats flung out and some of them hit the console building. Yeah, it wasn't brilliant news at all when we heard about this last week, less than a week ago, I think, or was it, might have been Friday. But yeah, well, I heard about it, a lot of people have heard about it. Be interesting to see if Sean talks about it, because he does tend to come here on Christmas Eve, so it'll be interesting to see, because I'm not too clued up on like actual like engineering of the rides, but from what Ryan said, I can kind of get a basic gist of what happened. But yeah, it's a big loss. Whenever an accident happens, it is rare, but when it's to do with the ride operators, that's the worst case, you know, because if it's to do with the ride, or if it's something no one could have prevented, you know, that's something that it's no one's fault, whereas this looks like very much like it is a person's fault. Yeah. So apparently these two rides are reopening. The Ferris wheel, I don't believe, is owned by Abu Dantas, so that'll be different ride operators anyway, so that can reopen. This is also going to open, so I'll try and get a ride on this, with it being, it is one of my favourite ride types. Potentially I'll get to go on one of these next year as well, because I've heard that the one that used to be at Blackpool, Bling, because it's been planned to go to Fantasy Island a lot recently, but I think it keeps getting delayed. Interestingly enough, that ride, I've heard that it is opening next year, and I am going to Fantasy Island for the first time in 2025, so I am hoping that I'll get to do that, because this is the only operational one in the UK, because that one's been in storage for years, since, I think it was 2012 when it was removed, I think, anyway. But yeah, honestly, anyone who was involved and anyone who witnessed this, you know, it's devastating. Even if, of course, no one has come out with really serious injuries by the sound of it, but I think it's been a lucky thing, really, the fact that people are going to be able to recover. I just hope that nothing like this happens again. I mean, I imagine that a lot of starflies are going to be shut as they investigate them, similar to, you know, how gyro swings were investigated after there was an accident on one of those, which was a lot more serious than what's happened on here. But then this is, well, that was also human error, but it was more because of maintenance, whereas this is, I believe, someone meddling with the reverse controls on it, because obviously these rides aren't, if you've been on one, they're not built to go backwards. But yeah, that's pretty much all I can say about it. I will go back down to the market, have a ride on the carousel, because I haven't done that for many years. I've just picked up a couple of, they're one of the shops where you can get like these knitted little keyring trinkets, which I've got a white rabbit and a Tin Man from that, because they're all themed to different IPs. So I've just picked up a couple of them. But yeah, that's pretty much all I can say about these. It'll be interesting what happens next year, or with Digbeth. Will they get a new company in for the rides? I mean, the Ferris wheel I probably will stay, but yeah, it's not really something I ever expected to have to talk about, but here I am, and this has happened, standing in front of a ride that had an accident last week.